Strange fact, if it is the middle of the week, you are more likely to research wills and planning for your death than if it was the weekend. A colleague of mine who teaches a social media course found that on Google Trends, you could see that when people search for wills and trusts and that kind of thing, it tended to be the middle of the week. And it makes sense. On the weekend, we just kind of want to forget about stuff. And one of the amazing things as a pastor is being invited and welcomed into the grief planning process and funeral planning process. And one thing I never would have expected was walking with someone through their planning of their funeral, in which they decided that they wanted to pair one of their family members with another musician for a song at their funeral in hopes that, well, maybe they might hit it off. Maybe they might start dating, and maybe I will play matchmaker even in my death. That concept is so far from how I would imagine planning for my death, but there's something beautiful about thinking about your own death and your own separation from people and using that moment to unite and bring people together. This past Sunday was Mother's Day, and I was thinking about a text in which Jesus unites people in a moment you wouldn't expect. And it comes from the Gospel of John. When Jesus is crucified in John, it has him looking out at the people that are there at the cross, and he sees some of the women who followed him to the cross and his beloved disciple, and he sees his mother there. And he calls attention to his mom and to the beloved disciple and says to the beloved disciple, "This is your mom." And to his mom, he points to the beloved disciple and says, "This is your son." And the Gospel of John says that from that day, the beloved disciple welcomed Jesus' mother into his own home and took care of her as if she was his own mother. And I think about what great courage, what great love there is that in the midst of your own pain, in the midst of your own suffering, that you have the kind of heart that looks for the people around you and how to connect them and help them to make it through those difficult times. It's so easy when things get hard in our lives and things get painful and difficult that we start lashing out and putting blame on someone and pushing somebody away as this kind of defensive response. But how beautiful is it if you're in the midst of pain and struggles to look around and find someone who needs to be better connected, who needs to be cared for, who needs to be supported, and to make that connection and make that happen. And so my challenge for you this week might be is if you are in the midst of any sort of pain point, look for, is there a possibility in this difficulty where I could reconnect with someone, establish a new connection, find two people who feel isolated or alone and bring those people together. And that doesn't mean that they have to be dating, but we need friendships. We are social beings. We need to be around one another. And in the midst of pain and difficulty, what if we use those opportunities to heal, to connect, to bring together? And so perhaps the next pain point you have in life, you might use that moment as an opportunity to bring about some sort of reunion, some sort of connection, and not become more isolated, more distant through pain. And so may you take some encouragement from the words of Jesus and the way that Jesus lived his life and even suffered, that he was always someone who looked for a way to connect people and bring communities together. And so this week, may you go out with Jesus' eyes for the world and find people that need to be reconnected and be the bridge to connection for others in your life.